those comments along with the comments that the committee had and revise the policy the way it's currently presented in your packet. And from here forward, this is how we would go about when a park request comes to be named or renamed, the procedures and the standards in which we would strive to meet.
Okay, is there a motion that the Park Board of Commissioners approve a Parks and Facility naming policy?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Sorry, I didn't know that.
No, I'm just saying, since
Any-
you're the chairperson of the committee,
Okay.
you should pull it back.
Yeah, pull it back on.
Mimi and Ron. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on anything? No? A motion was made by Commissioner Polling and seconded by Commissioner Newton. Roll call.
Ayers?
Yes.
Blumen?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Polling? Yes. Solosky?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item C, seeking a motion to award the seasonal brochure printing bid.
This is standard that we do on an annual basis, that we award our bid for the upcoming brochure each year. For the winter or fall holiday 2015, winter, spring 2016, and summer 2016. Right now, we are looking to award it to KK Stevens Publishing Company, which I believe is who we're currently using, correct, Doug?
Correct.
You have attached a bid sheet behind from the requests and.
Okay, seeking a motion that the Park Board of Commissioners authorize the Director of Marketing and Communications to execute a free brochure issues contract with KK Stevens Publishing Company and to execute said contract. Is there a motion? I'll make that. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, a motion was made by Commissioner Solowski, seconded by Commissioner Newton. Roll call.
Ayers?
Yes.
Blumen?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Polling? Yes. Solosky? Yes. Stein?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item D, seeking a motion to award a bid for one new 2015-16 Ford F-350 regular cab, dual rear wheel, 4x4 chassis with 9-foot NAPI KUV service body.
One of the things we looked at is we revamped our capital improvement. We reviewed the vehicles that we had budgeted for and what was possibly a more needed vehicle. As we've added a construction element or and facility improvement element to our parks department, we felt a vehicle that would have more capabilities to meet their needs was needed. We determined this was the vehicle we looked at. When we moved towards the state bid, unfortunately, the state bid for this vehicle closed on February 27th, and we missed the timing to run into that. So we used the state bid specifications that were set forth for the vehicle to go out and bid the vehicle ourselves. And I had also sent some additional information in regards to our fuel economy as to why we chose gas versus diesel in the previous year.
Of course, we're
Are
going
you
to
going to make the motion first? Or are you going to?
well, you're making comments.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Okay, in regards to that, we have comments on the vehicle bids and so forth. Wouldn't it be wise to keep this to wait until the next time around and see what pops up?
We actually compared what we have. We're not a difference in price. We actually got about the same pricing. They're anticipating probably about between a 5 and 6% increase for the next bid cycle. And one of the things we are looking at though is as we continue to do the work, we kind of are looking to have the vehicle now as opposed to waiting almost another 8 to 9 months for this vehicle. We are holding back on the remainder of the vehicles though that we had slated for this until the state bid comes around.
Here,
This is not a vehicle we have in our current
Are
service.
you still looking at the other equipment that you have on the list in regards to the chipper and
We have some, yes. There's some things, some things yes, some things we actually have moved off of, and that's one of the things as we move into the fiscal year 15A, which will be that short year, we're going to revamp some of that. Some things will, on the capital improvement list, will kind of be negated, other things will be re-added to the list moving forward, and then our goal is to revamp the entire capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2016. So there are some items that we are still planning on moving forward on, some that might be carried over into the next mini fiscal year.
Seeking a motion that the Park Board of Commissioners award the bid for one Ford F-350 regular cab dual wheel truck with a 9-foot NAPI KUV-CC service body using one 1999 GMC Sonoma as a trade-in for a total price of $38,224.76 to Riverview Ford in Oswego, and authorize the Director of Parks to execute said contract. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Now, we discussed about the size motor, you were saying it's going to be a gas, you mentioned 6-cylinder, or is it 6, or is it going to be an 8?
I'll defer some of this to Gene.
It is an 8-cylinder, I think it's not a 5.7 liter, but like a 5.4 liter. It's a gasoline engine. Dually wheels. This is a full-fledged construction vehicle. We can lock our equipment in it, we can segregate the equipment, we don't have to unload it at night, we don't have to.
Well, I understand
reload
that,
it.
the reasoning
It
for
is a
purchasing that vehicle.
full-fledged maintenance vehicle.
But, okay, in regards to the power plants, that's what I have questions on.
Any other discussion? A motion was made by Commissioner Newton, seconded by Commissioner Ayers. Roll call.
Ayers?
Yes.
Lumen?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Poland? Yes. Solosky?
Yes.
Stein?
No.
Motion carries.
We're up to old business, and I see it composting on that list.
I did revise the report, I put it in front of you, when we were between the initial review of the report and some of the adjustments, we somehow lost the word "not." So I highlighted where the word "not," because it does change some of the direction of the report, and I want to make sure that was clear. Basically, as we move forward in some of the things as staff we were highlighting is when permits are not required to compost and what areas they would not be required to compost. So some of the things to take into consideration as you're talking about this is the permit's not required if the material is generated on site. So if we were looking at the equestrian center, that would meet that criteria, but the thing that we would not meet the criteria on would be that we have a residency within a quarter mile of that area. So therefore, a permit would be required at the equestrian center. Looking then forward to use another location such as Four Seasons, now we actually made a couple calls. The determination is a little bit gray. Right now, it can be seen as that is not the site, even though we're one system, that's not the site it is sitting on. So therefore, that would be considered moving it to another site, so therefore it would be a permit required. We listed the steps forward for permitting. From a staff's perspective, the positive attributes that we see from the district is that we would provide a green initiative and then also supply approximately 60 cubic yards compost for fertilization usage at the small end that we talked about last month. The negative attributes for this in the district consideration is depending on the location, effects, the effects to local residents or users, and then also the permitting aspects. And then there is no actual cost savings to the district on this. In fact, to establish it would have an incur of some greater costs up front. And from that point, then it's board discussion.
Well, thank you for this very detailed report.
Gene has worked on it, and thank you, Larry, for finding some websites at the conclusion last month for research.
Does anyone have any?
So basically, we're saying that no matter what we do, we're gonna have to seek some permits.
That's our understanding, yes.
Okay, so is that too big a hurdle for us?
I think what we have to do is first of all establish the sites where we would think about having this.
Okay.
From there, you could possibly go to having to get in an engineer to look at the site and also to look at your water table. Offhand, I'm thinking, Four Seasons would be a great spot for this, but it can't be within 5 feet, I believe, of the top of the water table. So it's pretty strict. The rules are pretty strict. If we decide to pursue it somewhere, we're going to need permits. But it's going through the list of optional places and seeing the value to do it to begin with compared to the permits. I don't think they charge for the permits, but if you ask, if you're not sure, and you have to use one of their engineers, Department of Ag or whatever, they're very expensive. This is, in my mind, would take some still further investigation as far as sites to do this. After you pick the site, you have to make sure it's the right site, and then you start going for the.
Do we have
For the
any
permits.
sense of how the public feels about whether we're composting or not? Do we have?
Well, I would be interested in what, I understand Bolingbrook has a composting, does composting, but I don't know anything about it. And I would be very interested in finding out, some getting some information from the Bolingbrook.
I could go back and double check, but I think I mentioned Bolingbrook in my first report, because I did do a survey of the area park districts to see just what was what. As far as Naperville, Bolingbrook, you know, I feel safe that I can make a general statement that none of them really do very much.
And they don't do manure.
That's
No.
what I was gonna ask,
No.
it's not
It's all
manure,
different, you know.
it's probably landscape waste and things of that nature.
It's landscape, and if you do landscape, if you do, I don't think if you do landscape, you can have more than a 25% input of manure. So you can do the landscape, which, you know, people I've talked to say, well, I do this in my backyard, or my friend, yes, you do, but that's grass clipping and leaves and so forth. Once you get into the manure, it's very strict, really a whole different world.
My concern, and I mentioned it the last time we talked about this, is the horse facility is not set up to have it on site. So now we're looking at hauling wagons full of manure through town or wherever we have to take them.
If we did decide to do it at Four Seasons, if the water table was the right height and so forth, you're absolutely right. We would have the hauling issue too, wherever we were gonna haul it to.
Well, it's being hauled now, so I don't see where that's, I guess my feeling is, I wish we could go green, I really wish that. But if the hurdles are too big, if the cost is too great, if it's not going to help us, the benefit's not going to outweigh it, you know, how much are we willing to invest in being more green? Personally, I want to invest everything, but as a park district commissioner, I have to weigh, you know, the costs, and I really want to do it, but I'm not sure we can really make a decision yet. I mean, I feel like I'm still on the fence about it. I don't know how other people feel, but I still feel like I don't have quite enough to know if the hurdles are too big or not. So maybe we need to look at a site and just explore one site and see if that's possible or not, and how big the actual hurdles are and the costs.
Can I ask a question? Or no?
Well, I got a strong point to make in regards to, okay, we're looking at permits, just to deal with the issue we have now. What's happening, why don't we have permits at this present time? Because of the conditions of having horse manure on the facility in regards to being so close to residents with the smell, in regards to rain that actually leaches off, the dumpster, or being hauled out through the dust particles that are saturated throughout the area. And, like I said, being infested with a mix of water, like I said, it leaches into your neighboring grounds or into our storm sewers. Well, I'm a little confused here about fighting over permits of doing it one way, and what are we dealing with at this present time at this facility to make us, not apply for permits?
I'd have to look into that. I know last month the question of permits came up, that would we need permits, so we were providing the information on the permits needed.
And the way it sounded like,
Right,
and of course, the way it sounded like
Right.
last month, it was a total biological catastrophe out there that you couldn't handle the process of composting the manure without having a biological suit on. That's the way it sounded out of Gene in regards to, they had to have rubber suits, they had to have coveralls, respirators, and so forth. What's the big difference between, handling it with a permit in a fashion of composting versus what we're handling it at this present point? And we have coveralls, we have respirators for our working staff. Are they working safe around it, those elements?
my thought would be that the hauler that we currently contract has the permits to handle and take it away. That's why we don't have to have them at this point.
Well, at this present point also, Peter, you're talking about a facility that's producing, the horse manure, the byproduct, we haul away into a dumpster, but you have to get it there. How do you get it out of your stalls? You handle it. How do you handle it? Do you handle it in a, as I said, a proper way, in a safe way? or, you know, without, like I said, this last month we were discussing, it sounded like we had to wear this chemical suit because of, you know, the contagions in regards to, from the waste.
Well, I think the difference in your report, Gene, was there's a difference between scooping it into a dumpster versus actually having to compost it and deal with the byproducts of it breaking down.
Yeah, basically the manure is picked up inside the stall by a skid steer and taken directly into the dumpster. You know, there is no time where it sits in between on the ground, bare ground, or.
And nobody's handling it,
And
there's no squeeze
as far as
test. I remember
protective
that very
equipment, I believe all I mentioned was gloves.
Well, in regards to, like I said, airborne pathogens, I said, you were talking about being unsafe, being wet, and safe being dry, but when you got, you know, dry, you know, waste products, no matter what it is, it's contagious when it's airborne, and where it's gonna fly is into your lungs.
And unfortunately, one way or the other, we have a set of rules here that we would have to follow.
Well, I'm saying,
No
what
matter
type of
what
rules
the
are you
case
running
is
right
at the
now?
Equestrian Center.
That's the point, now,
This
what
is-
about the safety of our staff?
You know, we would always be willing to go out, and you're right, you know, I respect your opinions. This may open our eyes to a few things where we should go out and inspect the stalls and make sure it's getting done properly, which with the manager that's there, I'm sure it is, but we can always double check. But like I said, unfortunately, this is a set of rules we have to go by if we decide to compost, no matter what no matter what's going on anywhere
I
else.
understand.
This
I
is
understand
what-
following rules, but with these,
I understand.
with the changing times, with the, you know, EPA, OSHA standards and so forth, and plus the safety of our staff, members and people out there, I think we should look into those, matters.
I think regardless whether we compost or not, we can take a review of the safety measures regarding our staff and look at the best practice of how we're removing it and are we using the proper personal protective equipment to do such. And if we need something, then we will provide it like we do with any of our other parks and maintenance functions such as chaps and guards, et cetera. So that's not an issue moving forward. I do know we do provide certain things automatically when we're moving it. They are required to wear certain types of coverage equipment, but as far as if there is such a, depending on where the line sits, if just moving fresh manure requires some type of mask, et cetera, then we should be providing that. And that's not a problem, but I think that's a separate issue, that's a different issue than whether we want to compost. So we can move forward on that.
I was
Question
looking at
is,
the
do we
compost matters going forward with the compost, and then versus what we have existing at this present time to make sure we're conducting our business safely.
And that's what I'm saying, those are two separate issues, and we can handle that one regardless of what this is. This was more to provide, if we were to move forward on it. Obviously, last month, we kind of focused on a lot of more of the expenses that are involved in it, and what would be the return on our investment, should we choose to go to that, showing that really, we can't compost the amount to eliminate the dumpster waste moving forward. We're still gonna have to have a dumpster, whether it's filled with 10 cubic yards or roughly the 30 cubic yards we're doing right now, currently. So that was pretty much our assertion of last month. Then as we talked about a little bit more, if we were to move forward, regardless of cost, what was the permitting issue, and that was what we focused on this month, is to detail, if we want to do it, do we meet certain criteria to move forward? And that's something that I want to have in here.
I mean, you're going to, because of the permit issues and so it also brings up the point, you know, are we following the PPD rules? You know, maybe we need permits at this present time, you know.
And that's
to
what I think
fulfill our
Mary brought up,
obligation
that we
with
can look into,
Right.
whether by the fact that we're paying somebody contractually to remove the waste, that covers our permitting issue. We're not maintaining it on site, and I will just verify that. Exactly, and I'm sure, and that's what I'll verify.
Just like waste bin.
So what staff is wondering now from the board, do you want them to take a step further and select the site and come back to us with more specific information before we decide whether this is something to pursue further? I know Commissioner Poling had indicated that's what you would like us.
Yes, I would. I would like us to take one more step. I know we've spent a lot of time on it, but I think it's important. I really think it's important for our world, so I can't just let it go yet until we know for sure what specifics are involved.
Absolutely. I think we should run this course since we run out of questions. and make sure we're doing it all correctly and safely.
Is everyone else in agreement on that? No. So we're kind of torn, most of us don't want to pursue it, but there's two commissioners that do, so.
Do you want to put this as an action item for next month and move forward with the pursuit of it not, and just take an actual official vote on it?
I think what we can do is we can request a proposal from an engineer to provide a permit at Four Seasons. And that's a no-cost item, it's fairly quick. They give us a timeline, we can tell us how much it's gonna cost, they can detail all the things for us. I don't know if that necessarily needs to be an action item.
That's what I wanted to see before we go another step.
Yeah, I mean, if we get to the point where the water table's too low, then,
That's
you know,
fine.
that's the answer.
And that helps us, then. That's the
You know.
direction we're looking for, is
Yeah.
exactly which step, are we going to continue moving forward, or do you want us to just leave it rest? But that's fine, we'll move it forward with.
Look at the possibility of looking at other sites, if there are
Well,
availabilities.
I think we'll focus on those two right now, the two, because, and just to be upfront with, because we're working on the budget process, if this ever does come to fruition, though, we're not gonna make it happen in 2015, it'll be a 2016 item. Because I don't want to throw something in the bid, into the budget, without it being properly planned.
Yeah. I do really appreciate Commissioner Newton's willingness to take this a step further, even though he's reticent.
Okay. Next item is new business. Is there any business? There is none. Okay, so the next item then would be board initiatives. One would be to follow Commissioner Newton's recommendation on the engineering report for the house hosting.
And we'll focus in on Four Seasons and new questions.
And then also look at the manure procedures for staff. Follow up with Mr. Meehan on the Mayfair Park renaming and when that will all take place and setting all of that up. And then also follow up on the other comment we had on.
I sure hope when that happens, there's no graffiti, because I guarantee you it possibly could be. That would be a shame.
So,
And then also the personnel policy, advice on library kids.
So, the chairs of the Commissioner Cohen and Commissioner Ayers for each of those respective committees.
so next would be a motion. Oh, Commissioner comments, I almost missed that. How could I have missed that? All right, Commissioner Ayers, do you have any comments tonight?
We'll just welcome everyone to the meeting.
Commissioner Newton?
I just wanted to say regarding the homeowners association, this is not a new issue. We've dealt with this many times in the past. We appreciate your concern and we share your concern. And we hope we can work something out. You know, if that's just a meeting with staff, briefing with your HOA, whatever it is.
Yeah. Our next meeting, I know, is in the mid-May, so that's why I wanted to come and kind of like bring it to a,
Before you leave, can I just get your phone number?
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you.
Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, I want to reiterate, I really believe that working together with subdivisions is a really important part of what we need to be doing more of, and so I hope we can help you out here and work together on that. Also, I would appreciate it if the staff would look into the feasibility of setting aside a small space and acquiring some exercise equipment or weights, equipment for seniors at the Township Community Center. It's been expressed by some of the participants in exercise classes there that we would like to have a space that after class we can work out. Some of us hang around and do a little bit of weightlifting with what we have, but we'd like access to something more without, we have to carry our own weights in every time. And so it'd be nice to have some equipment there that we can use, so I'd like us to look into that.
Commissioner Solowski?
I just want to, there's no words that can put it, but, to Mr. Meehan, but my daughter-in-law's brother died in Afghanistan, and, so, my deepest sympathy.
Commissioner Steinitz?
And like he does, the basic, youth developments over in regards to, the graffiti and so forth. If you see suspicion, people out there, yeah, especially, in night, like I said, all I could say is, actually call the police department,
I have
and,
the
be
non-emergency
a
phone
nag
number on
and,
speed dial.
that's, because basically, on our side, that's what we'd be doing too, in regards to calling, the police officers out there and, let them investigate the matters. And, of course, I feel for you, and, you don't want to be out there doing it yourself. You don't know what happened, but, let the police officers in the districts, do their job.
And they've come out and they've met with the neighborhood watch. I mean, they're trying their best too, but, until we can catch some of these kids, I mean, I'm out there with binoculars too, believe me, I really wanna find out where these kids live too, just to, it's just a shame, but it's just bad because some of these young kids don't even play at the park. And why, it's a shame, like why, because they're getting bullied by these older kids and parents don't feel safe having them there, because there's a lot of things around that kids could pick up that, I wouldn't want.
And like I said, in any case, like I said, our park district, or, like I said, we still have our dusk to dawn ruling, right?
Exactly.
We should be in the parks, when it's dark, so.
And we have an intergovernmental agreement with the Georgia Police Department for police and stuff.
Gotcha. Also, bring up a point on, also identifying our parks. Anybody looked into, his staff, regards to putting addresses on these, park locations?
That was something that came up in the strategic planning that we had for short range, and that is part of that
That's
process.
what the police department and fire department.
The fire department already has addresses, locations for them in the towns, and I think the
Okay.
police department does as well.
Well,
They already
sure.
are set with location addresses. What we're looking at is for especially some of the larger parks, et cetera, and start to work on from larger to smaller, is identifying some of the local addresses so they're prevalent to the the residencies neighboring the park, so they're aware of the addressing.
Also,
So that's what we're looking at as we start our sign reprocess.
Gotcha. Besides that, also taking the added steps in regards to safety, identifying buildings at the locations in regards to maybe a numbering system on structures in case somebody does go down. So we're further into the park's location and they get relay the information to identify exactly where they're located at.
Yeah, we can look into that. Most of our park plans are our park amenities. They don't get like a gazebo and then playground equipment for the majority. We have very few structures on the majority of our neighborhood parks.
Well, like I said, certain areas like Richmond.
Like some, like Brunswick, Eaton Reserve, et cetera, have structures.
I would like to thank Mr. Meehan for coming here and presenting tonight. I appreciate that, and it'd be difficult for you to do, and thank you. And I also would like to congratulate my fellow commissioners on the election yesterday. Look forward to working with everyone going forward. And that's all I have. So, seeking a motion to go into executive session as permitted under the Open Meetings Act under 5 ILCS 120-2 C2 collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, and 5 ILCS 122 C1 the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body to reconvene. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion was made by Commissioner Newton and seconded by Commissioner Ayers at 6:59 PM. Roll call.
Ayers?
Yes.
Ludeman?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Poland? Yes. Wolfski? Yes. Stein?
Yes.